Hi folks, hope you're okay today. I just want to share with you some thoughts. There's an atheist called John McDropout. We've had a really good discussion. Hope you're okay, John. This video is dedicated to you. I'm going to do a few videos responding to what you've said in your writing. This is just going to be a very warm, gracious, friendly dialogue with an atheist. So John, this is going to be done with deep respect. It's going to be done with love, and I'm going to read what you said in your comment section. I'm going to respond with it with an open heart. So this is an open heart to my atheist friend. Okay, so I'm going to read what you've said, John. I know you've said 2 comments now, so I'm going to read. I don't know. I experienced the light of Jesus for a long time. While it was hard to leave the entirely temporary peace of God's love, it was only when I stepped out of that framework of devotion to a character that I realized all contentment could only ever be temporary, and that this is fine. Well, John, you know, I've studied atheism for 5 years. I've read your atheist people in New Testament studies. I've read Carrier, I've read your main apologists, Hitchens and people like that, and Sam Harris, and they've not done anything for me. I don't see anything in them, but I read my Bible and it comes alive. I read the early church fathers, it comes alive. And the more I study about Christianity, the more I get into a deeper knowledge with God. You write, my quest for knowledge is this short life may be without ultimate meaning in the infinite sense, but don't make the mistake of caricaturing this as darkness. My quest for knowledge in this short life may be without ultimate meaning. Maybe. I find that interesting. Maybe without ultimate meaning in the infinite sense, but don't make the mistake of caricaturing this as darkness. My devotion to understanding fills my life with light. I don't doubt that, John. I don't doubt that you learn things about philosophy and science and about personal relationships. I don't doubt that at all. But you have to face the fact on the cosmic scale. Your position as an atheist is hopeless. And you have to face that fact, John. You say, after I left my fundamentalist Christianity, I found things that I considered unknowable suddenly became illuminated and obvious. One of my first acts of unchristianity was to read Charles Darwin, The Origin of Species, and it blew my mind that a book I was told was evil, not to mention complicated, obsolete propaganda and pointless to read because it was obviously wrong, contained such a well thought out, thorough and compelling case, based on years of solid observation by himself and countless others. Well, John, you use the word fundamentalist Christianity. I don't know what fundamentalist Christianity you mean. The Christianity that the background that I'm from, influenced by a whole host of theologians and thinkers. 2 of them, just to mention, Francis Schaeffer and Lloyd Jones, encouraged people to study widely. And we were never discouraged to read widely. Never. Lloyd Jones and Francis Schaeffer would never discourage anybody not to read widely. So, if there is a community that has not encouraged you to read widely, then that's not true Christianity. True Christianity is not anti-intellectual, John. I've read parts of The Origin of Species, and I was not particularly impressed by the book myself. There was a lot of work gone on before he went to do his research. You know, he'd studied at a university where there was skepticism, so his mind was already prepared before he did his research. Secondly, finches are still finches, John. So those are just a few things. And you know, Darwin's main issue was the problem of evil. And how can you solve the problem of evil if there is no right and wrong, objectively speaking? How can you say there is evil and suffering? You need the resources of Christianity to be able to unpack those words. But I appreciate all that you shared, and I'll say that later. The sudden realization, you say, that valuable information had been kept from me in my biology classroom of a private Christian school was a hard pill to swallow. Well, John, if they've done that, then they're not. It must have been a very narrow-minded school, because real theological education or Christian education does not blind people from real scholarship. You don't believe me? Go to R.C. Sproul's Legionnaire Ministries and you'll see scholarship in action there, bro. It was strange because I had never considered myself opposed to learning, but somehow, with the urging of loved ones and people I trusted, I had kept myself from going down roads of thought that would have led me to question my relationship with Christ. Well, again, these people were anti-intellectual, and you do get some circles that Christian circles that are anti-intellectual, but that is not true Christianity, John. It's only a parody. It's hard to say if my experience is typical of formerly theistic scholars or students, but I find it a liberating experience, Jay, so I disagree with the ultimate consequence argument you're making. It was ultimately and truly positive for me. I can understand it was positive. It would be positive for me if I was in your position, where you're in a closed-minded community that's not encouraging you to study, and then you study. Education is a liberating thing, John. You know, education is a good thing, and it's a liberating thing, and to read widely is a good thing. I remember me and Mark were at theological seminary, and we were in the garden of the seminary helping the principal, Dr. McGonigal, and Mark came with a book and telling Dr. McGonigal to read it, and Dr. McGonigal said to him, and I was there, and he said to Mark, read widely. And it's good to read widely, it's good to study widely. And the Christianity that you came into contact, John, was not real Christianity. If you study Princeton Theological Seminary, look at the history, John, of Princeton Theological Seminary. I'd encourage you to go and buy 2 volumes by the Banner of Truth of the history of Princeton Theological Seminary, John. Go and buy those 2 books and go and read them. Published by the Banner of Truth, the history of Princeton Theological Seminary, and go and read them, John, and you'll see a different kind of Christianity than you've come. Go to L'Abri Fellowship, John. Type in L'Abri Fellowship and see there, and you'll see a different kind of Christianity, a Christianity that is not anti-intellectual, John. But I can understand that if you're in that narrow-minded environment that has kept scholarship from you, I can understand how you're feeling. I would feel the same. So I appreciate what you shared. Here's something I thought of on my way out of Christianity. What if there is a God and you get up to what's presumably heaven and you're excited because you were right, but when you get to the gate he asks you, did you believe in me? And you say proudly, yes. And God frowns and says, why? I didn't give you any evidence. What if God says to you, I gave you a brain and 5 senses so that you could question the world around you and find out what is true. You believed blindly and took the word of ignorant men as fact, despite having no good reason to do so. Why didn't you read with an open mind and see things without the need to squeeze it into a tiny theological box? Do you know something, John? I think people are going to get a shock. I think you're right. There are people who have blind faith, and they're narrow-minded and they're bigoted. And we all have blind spots. You have blind spots and I have blind spots. But there will be people who come to heaven and they will get that kind of shock that you're saying, and I agree with that. The Pharisees thought they had it right, and Jesus questioned that. There are many Christian groups that think they got it right, but they're narrow-minded and bigoted. But that's not true Christianity, John. True Christianity has always been about trusting a person, but it's not a blind faith, John. It's about evidence in that person and how it works out in practice. It's the two. It's faith and evidence. And God works in different ways. You know, people get saved in different ways, but the main gospel is Jesus died and rose again, and that is evidential. You can go and investigate that. And I would say that evolution is not correct, John. What's the mathematical? I talked to a geneticist at Liverpool University a couple of months ago, and we had a debate, just me and him quietly, on evolution, and he knew his stuff. He was a PhD student and he knew his stuff, and he was just trotting out all this stuff about genetics. And I asked him at the end of it, I showed him respect and listened, and I took it all on board, and I pushed 1 or 2 questions that he couldn't answer, and then I said, okay, I've respected you, I've listened to you as a scientist. Now, I've asked you a couple of questions, I don't think you've really dealt with them, but let me ask you a question. What's the mathematical probability of a cell coming to be via abiogenesis or by evolution? What's the mathematical probability of it? And he went into the mathematical probability, and it was almost zero. He said he basically said it was almost impossible, and his eyes kind of just, it dawned on him that his position was untenable, John. Go and listen to Greg Banson on evolution and Islam, and how he goes on about the mathematical probability in evolution. What if God says to you, I gave you a brain, we've done that, you believe blindly, why didn't you read with an open mind? Now, what I'm saying, Jay, is that if God is out there, maybe he's rooting for the skeptical thinkers and those seeking the expansion of knowledge. Just a thought, a very long one, sorry about that. God is often the God of the underdog, and I'm sure there are many people out there that God is on their side. Skeptical people who are trying to use knowledge to advance and bless people. You know, God knows people's hearts, and very often we can be judgmental. So maybe there are people out there who are skeptics who God is actually rooting for. But at the end of the day, if we are proud and we're using our knowledge because independent of God, then God will not be pleased. God will humble our pride, and the cross humbles our pride, John. You can't fathom the cross, you can't get your head round the cross, and so reason is humbled, but also reason is redeemed, is put in its right perspective, with faith, reason and love. And without those 3 things, reason does not have the right perspective. I hope that's been a blessing to you, John. I'm going to read your other bit now. God bless you and have a lovely evening, and take care. See you soon with Kant. God bless.